after, so I'm just going to go ahead and start.
Oh, shall we start? Okay.
Everybody. Hi, everybody. I hope you're all doing great today. I'm Patty Rose, co-host of this Divi New York City, where we've been, over the last year of craziness, been able to meet so many of you from all around the world, which has been really lovely. And so we're really happy to have you here. I want to introduce to you my co-host, Mickey Diener, who's with us, and our other co-host, Jeanine Polizzi, who can't be here tonight. And we're super excited for our meeting. So I just have a moment of housekeeping, I guess you call it, right? Elegant Themes would like for us to take attendance. They are tracking data. So if you could please make sure that the name you have on your Zoom window matches the name that you registered your RSVP in Meetup. Otherwise, I can't figure out who's who. And that would just be super helpful to me. And then you could change your name back, but after the meeting, just so I can do that. And I guess, Mickey, just a note for a moment, after, if other people come into the meeting, maybe we'll just send them a chat.
Sure.
One of us will send them a chat that we need to do that if the name's not right.
Okay, sure.
Right, so I'm going to introduce our presenter tonight, and super excited to have David from Divi-Modules here with us. And
hi, everyone.
David is an Australian-born graphic designer, musician, and founder of Divi-Modules, with over 20 years experience working in the Australian graphic design industry. David has progressively moved from print to web design and now software development. He first used Divi in 2014 to build his own music website, little knowing that his first encounter would set the course for his future business. From 2017 to 2020, he joined the Australian volunteer program as a designer for Bumi Sayat Foundation and a non-profit gentle birth clinic located in Bali, Indonesia. Once again, he turned to Divi to build the foundation's website for its versatility and ease of use for non-specialist users. During that time, he began coding his own Divi modules to add functionality to the Divi builder that it lacked. It was here that the Divi modules business was first conceived and born. David now lives in Bali. Hello, I'd like to come and visit. David now
Please come.
in Bali with his wife, Nadia, and daughter, Bonnie, where together they run Divi-Modules, which you can find at divi-modules.com. And so, David, we're just so happy to have you here tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and let you take over and start your presentation. I will just say that if you have questions, I'm sorry, Mickey, I'd like to send it over to Mickey. You're going to take on questions?
Sure. If you have questions during the presentation, you can put them in the chat and we'll take a pause and take some of them and certainly answer as many as we can afterwards. If it's something really that you need to talk about, then you could use the reaction icon on the bottom and raise your hand, and one of us will probably see it, and we can interrupt David for the urgent question if there are any. But yeah, just put your questions in the chat, and we should be good to go.
All right.
Okay, David.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. And yep, my name's David. Thanks, Patty, for the nice introduction, and Mickey as well. And thanks for having me as your guest presenter on the meetup. I just also want to take a moment to thank Stella McGovern. I'm not sure if she's here, but some of you might know Stella. Stella put my name forward for this presentation about a month or so back, and she's, apart from that, she's just been Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Did you hear any of that introduction?
You talked about Stella and putting you putting you forward for
okay.
this, but then you sort of blanked out.
Oh, that's weird. I didn't touch anything. Did it just?
It's probably just the network.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, just let me know if that happens again. So yeah, Stella's been a really good friend of Divi-Modules since I did a bit of support for her about a year or so ago. And yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank her. Let me open my notes. Okay, so this is the first time I've given a presentation like this for Divi-Modules. So I'd also just like to apologize if it's not terribly interesting for anyone, but it's a learning experience for me. And it's a great opportunity for me to be able to do this. If there's anything you don't understand, or if I'm going too fast, or you'd like me to repeat something, just put your hand up and I'll be happy to do that. So what I'm planning on doing, we've just, Patty and Mickey and I have just had a bit of a chat, and I'm going to change my approach a little bit. So might be a little bit messy at times, but what I'm generally just planning on doing is telling you a little bit about who I am and how I got into making Divi-Modules, because well, I think it's a reasonably interesting story, but maybe some of you also have the skills or are interested in doing something, doing it just for yourself, for your own clients, or maybe making modules to sell. And I know Elegant Themes are really trying to encourage people to consider consider doing this as a hobby or as a business. So after I've talked about myself for a bit, I'll just go through all of the modules that we have and just show you a little video of some of them and give you their basic functionality. And then I'll jump into Divi and I'll demo two of them. The first one I think I'll demo is a plugin or a module called Image Box. And then the next one I'll do is Table Maker. Okay, so yeah, I'm speaking to you from Bali, Indonesia, where we're 12 hours ahead of you actually. So it's 5:30 in the morning. I haven't been up this early for a long time, because I only ever used to get up this early to catch an aeroplane, and now of course we can't do that anymore. So it's pitch black outside and it's very quiet, which is nice. Let me jump into my presentation now. And okay. Oh, I need to share my screen, don't I, again? Here we go. Screen sharing. Okay. Are you seeing that? Great. And you're still hearing me, obviously. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm originally from Australia, which is there, if you don't know where it is. And specifically, I'm from Melbourne, which is down south, and it can be pretty cold down there. I worked for 20 years, as Patty said, or more than 20 years in the Australian graphic design industry. And you might assume that I did web design, but I actually did print design, because when I started studying design, there was no internet. And computers were really just coming in. So I started studying in 1988, which was when Illustrator 88 was first released, I presume. Yeah, so I did print design, and that's what I did for most of my career, but I always had an interest in coding and computers, and that was sort of my second career choice, was maybe to be involved in computers development in some way. But I chose graphic design. But I always tried to incorporate coding into my design work, so I would automate parts of my work that were really repetitive or whatever. So I always kept an interest in it. And over the years, I started to do a little bit of web design, but not a great deal. The first website that I built with Divi was a music website that I did for myself for an album that I released in 2014. And if you you'll find me online if you're interested. I haven't sold an album for probably about 5 years, so if you want to buy one, go for it. Yeah, so in 2015, I moved to Indonesia, or my wife and I moved to Indonesia. My wife is Indonesian, and we've been coming back and forth for every year and thinking about moving here. And we finally did it in 2015. And we thought we'd probably stay for 6 to 12 months only, and we've been here now for about 6 years. So, you know, partly there's a chance we'd be back in Australia at the moment, but we can't go back, of course, because of the pandemic. So our stay here has sort of been forcibly extended, but we're very happy here, and we may have chosen to stay here anyway. From 2017 to 2020, oh, I have a slide of Bali as well. That's Bali, little island there in the middle of Indonesia. And that's the island itself. And that's about the most accurate map I could find of Bali online. And I'm actually sort of semi-serious. If you Google Bali map, it comes up with all these sort of infographic style maps, because I guess that's how everyone perceives Bali. Anyway, so yeah, so from 2017 to 2020, I worked or volunteered for this organization. I was part of the Australian Volunteer Program, which is a government-run program. And this is when I sort of got back into Divi again. I moved away from it for a while and then came back to it for this project. I did a bunch of stuff while I was there. I did a lot of IT, but building the website was one of the things I did. So Bumi Sehat stands for, well, Bumi is Earth and Sehat is healthy. So it's Healthy Earth Foundation. And it's a gentle birth clinic in Bali. They provide free and or by donation health and birth services. So it's an incredible organization. Yeah, if you have the sort of philanthropist mindset and you're looking to donate some money, you could really do a whole lot worse than supporting an organization like this. Their founder is a Filipino American, but they're based out of Bali. And yeah, so I built a website for them in Divi, and you might notice some of the modules on there are not Divi-Modules. So that's the homepage. And I started building modules for this website because I think like a lot of people, I saw Extra, I saw the Extra theme, which is another Elegant Themes theme, a very popular theme. And it's more an editorial style theme. And like a lot of people, I wanted to use Extra modules, but I wanted to use them in Divi, and I couldn't find a way to do that. So I started looking for solutions. And so they're sort of some of the first modules that I built. There's a slider at the top, and there's a sort of like there's some post roles underneath. And there's a bunch of other things on the website that I built. And what I used to build those was actually this piece of software here, which some of you might be familiar with. It's made by Divi Plugins. They also make Divi Filter Grid, I think, which is another popular one on the Divi marketplace. Really helpful to people. I had some contact with them when I was first doing this. And this product allows you to build your own, or start building your own modules in the Divi Builder. It's a little bit, no, I won't say it's old, it still works, and they sell it on the Divi marketplace. The only limitation with it now is that you can't build back-end modules. So you can't build modules that work within the Visual Builder. They load into the Visual Builder using Ajax, so you can see them, but they load kind of, you see the spinning wheel every time you make a change, and some people find that frustrating. And you can't interact directly with the modules that you're building. You have to use the classic style. Well, you don't have to, but the point is you don't get a visual representation of the changes you're making. But it still works, and it's a really great way to learn how to make your own modules for your clients or for yourself. And if you have an inquisitive mind, you can sort of look at the code that it's creating for you, because to create the modules, you're just using a WordPress interface, clicking buttons and making choosing from drop-down menus and things. Now you can look at the code that it generates and you can start to understand what the process is for building modules. So that's how I got into it. And then I had the bright idea, well, you know, maybe I can start selling some of these, or maybe there's a market for this. And that's how I got into it. Right, where are we? So the first module that I built was the one on the top left there, called Simple Heading. Well, the first one that I tried to, you know, not sell. This is actually a free module and it's still free. And I built that because it's always surprised me that Divi didn't have something like this, and it still doesn't. Just a very, very simple module for making headings. I mean, you can do it with the text module and get similar results, but you know, that just seems a bit sort of clunky to me. So I thought, well, this is a simple idea, and it's probably something I can do, something that other people might find useful, and I can give it a way to see if people are interested. And at the same time, I built Typewriter, which is the one on the top right there, and that's the first module that I actually tried to sell. But again, I just built that because I wanted to. I just thought it'd be fun, and there are other products available that do the same thing, but perhaps not as fully featured. So we now have seven products, and there's a question mark there, so there's more to come. Hopefully sometime in the next month or so we'll have another module available on the marketplace. And just to kind of wrap up this introduction, I want to say that, you know, I really love this work that I'm doing. It's happened for me. It's happened very organically. I have never really been strategic about it in the sense of, oh, you know, I'm going to build this module because, you know, it's going to make me a lot of money, or, you know, there's a gap in the market, I'm going to try and fill it. I'm really just, you know, following my heart and following my interests. And so far it's been, you know, it's been going really well, and I'm really grateful for that, because as we all know, this is a really difficult and interesting time around the world. And, you know, for me to be so far away from my family in Australia and not to have the capacity to go back. And I mean, we've all got our stories, of course, but, you know, to have been sort of fortunate to start this business at a time when other opportunities were really closing down. I just, you know, I'm really, really happy that it's working out the way it is. Okay, so that's probably enough as an introduction. I do tend to waffle on once I get going. So I always worry before a presentation that I'm not going to have anything to say. And then once I start, I can't stop. So perhaps I'll show you a little bit more of Simple Heading, and then we'll move on. I'm going to try and go through this next bit pretty quickly. So Simple Heading, oh, I can't actually read, can I? Oops. Oh, that's awkward. Can't read my own text because I've got Zoom stuff all over my screen. How do I get around that? I'm just going to get out of here. Okay, I'll just read it from here. So Divi-Modules Simple Heading adds a simple but versatile module to the Divi Builder. Use it to add headings and subheadings to your layouts with all the Divi styles, effects, and filter settings you're familiar with. As I said, this is a free product. Free as in I ask for an email address if you download it from my website, but you can get it from the Divi Marketplace for absolutely free if you have an account with them. And I've got a video which my wife made for me. She's a videographer, editor, and I'll just play that. Now watch your ears, because if you're wearing headphones, this could come in a bit loud, and I'll try and turn it down for you.
Hey, David,
Yeah.
just before you move on, I wanted to tell you that that Zoom bar, you can drag that out of your way.
Yeah, I can now. I couldn't before. My mouse cursor had disappeared. I think
Okay.
it's because I was full screen on the, on the keynote
Yeah, it's
presentation.
always
But
a
yeah,
problem for me too. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that.
thanks. Is it all making sense so far? Is it all good?
Yes, yeah, it's great. I love
Okay,
the heading
great.
that you just showed.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to try and quickly zip across to the website, but I couldn't share it before for some reason. So just bear with me. What is that there? I'm having this issue again with not seeing my, oh, there we go. I just want to point something out on the, oh, it's actually not there anyway. Where is it? Sorry, guys. There it is. Okay, are you seeing the module, my website, the Divi-Modules website now?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I just want to point out with most of our products, if you go to their product page, there's a tab here called settings. And I think I'm probably one of the only people that does this. If you scroll down here, you can actually see all of the settings for all of our modules. So you can see, what settings are available. They're not, you can't interact with them. It's just a PNG file, a GIF, a PNG of the settings. But you can, so if there's anything that I talk about and you think it's interesting and you like to know more, you can always find those settings on the website. And I also want to point out that the way I did this is just a standard Divi tab module with a bit of custom styling. But this little panel at the top here is actually a simple heading module. So yeah, I mean, I use simple heading not just for headings, but anywhere really that you just got a single piece of text that you want to style. It's just really handy. Okay, I'll move on. Text on a path is another heading style module, and this is really handy if you're doing something that's a little bit whimsical, like if you've got a website like maybe a children's website, toy store, or an ice cream store, or candy store, or something like that. I mean, I see it. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, of course, but it just seems to me to be something that suits a more whimsical style website. I'll read this to you as well. Divi-Modules text on a path does exactly what it says on the tin. It puts your text on a path. Use it to make eye-catching headings, call to actions, taglines. Choose from arc, cubic, and quadratic paths, as well as wave and ellipse. Add some eye-catching curviness to your text with text on a path. So I told you that I started studying design back in the late 80s, and I don't know if any of you had a similar experience to me, but when computers first sort of found their way into the design industry, the first thing everyone did was put a bit of text on a curve. You'd make your curvy path and then a bit of text, and you'd merge the two together. And it took about 5 minutes for the computer to crank the numbers, and then it would always be in the wrong spot, and you had to do it again and again and again. But we're sort of the first thing that we all did when we were design students. And when I started making modules, I thought, just for fun, I'm going to make a module which lets you put text on a path. So I've got another video for this one. Again, my wife made this, so I'll play that for you now. Are you seeing my presentation still? Are you seeing the big screen? Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
there we go. So I've got some, I just want to point out a couple of things. I'm going to skip through a lot of this because it's not really, we're going to run out of time. I just want to say one thing, this guide path that you can see here, can you see my mouse cursor when I move it? Yeah. This guide path here is only visible on the back end. So it's just really helpful to be able to see the path while you're designing your type. And you can toggle that on and off on the back end, and you can change the color of it so to make it visible, but on the front end it's not visible. The other thing I wanted to point out, so you can't animate this. I had a support question recently where someone had seen these GIFs on the website and was wondering whether they could animate the text to do this on the front end, and you can't do that. This is just showing making adjustments on the back end. What else do I want to point out? Oh yeah, and you might have noticed in the video as well, towards the end, there was a bit where the lines came out and it went, you can't do that either. The other thing I want to point out is the way this is made, this effect here, that's two modules together. So there's one text on a path module, which is making the circle and the words Divi-Modules, and there's a second one, which is making the text at the bottom, and they're positioned together using Divi's positioning settings. So using absolute positioning. I may, this honestly, this is a very niche product, and it's just a bit of fun, really. It doesn't sell very many, so I'm not, the chances of me adding new functions, it'll happen eventually, but it's not going to be in a hurry. But I may eventually add some other settings which allow you to do these, what would you call that, like a shield sort of effect within one module, just to make it a bit easier. But at the moment, to do these sorts of things, you have to use multiple modules. Okay, that's that. And the last one that I have a video for is typewriter. As I said, there's other typewriter modules out there. And if you just want very basic functionality, then they're fine. What I wanted to do with this one was put in as much as I can. So if you're looking for a really full-featured typewriter module, and again, this is a module that is has a very limit, perhaps not limited, but it's very specific. It's more like an effect, I suppose. It's not the sort of thing you would necessarily use every day, but you do see typewriter effects quite often, and they can be really, really useful actually for giving more information in a very small spot. And I've lost my mouse again. Can I get that back? So typewriter adds a feature-rich animated typing module to the Divi builder, types headings, paragraphs, block quotes, buttons, and more with all the styles, effects, and filters that you're familiar with. And I'll play the video for that. So watch your ears again. There you go. That's my favorite one. I like that. My wife made that as well. She's very, very talented. So So I'll just point out a couple of key things about this module that I think are unique. I'm going to have to skip quite a bit because I know I'm taking quite a bit of time. So this GIF here, this is a very popular effect at the moment. When you see it, you'll recognize it, I'm sure. So this is the typewriter interface here. We're typing in 3 words, so hip, cool, and groovy. And then we're going to tell the typewriter to delete the text before typing each line. So rather than typing hip, cool, and groovy on the screen, it's going to type hip, then delete it, then cool, then delete that, and then groovy. And then we can go down to the typewriter static settings. And that allows you to enter static text. So type text that's not going to be typed before or after the typed text. So where's that typewriter is, adjust the gap between the two. Goes down to looping, turns on looping because we want it to repeat, and adjust the delay time between the loops. And then that's what it will look like on the front end. So you've probably seen effects like this, and you may have already done them yourself. And this is a new feature that I added in the last update. So it's now really easy if you've got clients that want this, really easy to do. Don't need to show you that. The other really cool feature with this this module is it can type its own elements. So it can create paragraphs, it can create block quotes and headings, but it can also type into existing page elements. So if you've got a button that you want to animate or a menu that you want to animate, it can do that. And the only limitation is that the typewriter module has to load after the element that you're trying to type. So it has to be below it. So here there's a standard button module here. This is just a text module at the top, and below that is a typewriter module. And the way it works is you give a class or an ID to the button. So we're typing in my button. And then we go into the typewriter and we enter the text that we want to put into the button. So in this case, it's push my buttons. And then we go down to the typewriter element. We say we want to type an existing element, and we put in the ID of the element. So we put an ID on the button, which said my button. So here we put a hash for ID and then my button. And we want to delete this content that's already in it. And then when you play that on the front end, that's what you'll get. I won't show you this one, but what this, the other thing typewriter can do, it can trigger other typewriters to type. So once your first typewriter finishes typing, it'll send a message to the next one to start typing, and you can do this sort of daisy chain effect of typewriters to create really interesting effects, and it makes it much easier to style each typewriter differently. So there's 3 typewriters here, one there, one there, and one there, and they'll trigger each other to type. And in fact, if you go to the Divi-Modules website, are you seeing the website again? Is my sharing still working? Okay, so if you go to typewriter on the website, generally under the About tab is where all of these animated GIFs are. But if you go to demos on most of my products, these are live. You'll find actual live examples of the product, so you can interact with them. So that video that you just watched, that's all typewriter actually typing, and you can see it on the website in real time. Here it is. And this is using that technique of triggering one typewriter after the other. There's maybe 12 or something different typewriters here, just all setting each other off. And the button, that's a button that's clickable, and this form here is, it's a real form that you can type into. So that's that. The other, you can have different cursors. You can have an icon as a cursor or text as a cursor. And you can adjust the things like the typing speed. You can do that using the built-in settings. and adjust, make it type fast or delete faster or slower. But you can also use custom actions, and you'll see them being entered into the typed content here. And that allows you to adjust the typewriter's settings while it's typing. So you can slow it down, speed it up, you can delete some letters and then continue typing, you can pause. There's a bunch of different things that you can do using these typewriter actions, and they're covered in the documentation. And you can see now it types fast, then it types slowly. It's going to type something, have a pause. It's going to type this, delete it, and then continue typing. And so you can create these really sort of natural looking effects. And a new effect that I added in the last update is the ability to move the cursor to a new position while it's typing and then type some new information. And you can also see here that you can enter in some basic CSS styling or inline styling and HTML, and it'll type that as well. So it's going to type, move backwards, type again, go to the end, and type a full stop. So that's typewriter. Okay, so I might jump into Divi now and do a bit of a demo of Table Maker, because I think I'm probably burning time. Can Mickey and Patty, can you give me some indication of how long I've got left?
Sorry, David. Go ahead,
Okay.
Patty.
Yeah, I think definitely another half hour or 45 minutes with room for questions.
Okay, great.
That work?
Yep. Yeah, totally fine. So what I'm going to do, I was going to do demo 2, Image Box and Table Maker, but I know probably most of you are here to look at Table Maker. So I'll do that first. If there's a bit of time, I'll talk a little bit about Image Box, and that'll be more than enough. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Maybe it's a good time for me to rest my voice and have a drink.
There's nothing in chat, but if anyone wants to unmute and ask a question right now, please feel free.
I think there's a question here from Seema.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She was wondering, how do these modules work in mobile?
Is there like one specific module that, because they're all kind of different. I mean, where possible, you know, all of the settings have responsive options. So it's only if it's just technically infeasible to make a setting have a responsive option that it doesn't. So in most cases, you know, if you want to change the color of a piece of type or the size of a piece of type from desktop to tablet to phone, you can do that. But if you've got a specific something specific in mind,
mainly the typewriter one, mainly typewriter. So I haven't used it, but
yes.
wondering, like, do people use it or just put it in a module that doesn't show up in mobile? So
no, it still works on mobile, tablet and mobile, and it's just text. I mean, in terms of like how it works in terms of styling, like, you know, whether the text wraps to a new line and all of that. Yeah, it does. It's just text. It's once it's on the screen, once it's been typed, and even while it's been typed, you can select it and you can copy and paste it and it will wrap. Like if you reduce the size of your browser window down to really skinny and your text is long, the words will flow onto new lines. So yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it's just text.
Okay.
And it's using JavaScript to animate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I haven't had any, like I haven't heard of any issues on mobile. And certainly, like if you went to the Divi-Modules website, my website, and looked at that typewriter page that I showed you with the animation on it, with the typing on it, I think you'll see it'll work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I love both of these modules already. I'm all excited about all the fun things I can accomplish. On text on a path, you referred to the line for design not showing up on the front end.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify, does that mean not showing up on the visual builder end, like it's only accessible in the back end of the design, or just not showing up live?
I'll show you, I'll step out of this presentation again. I'll go to the website again. So where is it? Text on a path.
Yeah,
You're seeing that now? You're seeing the,
yes.
oh, it's slow to load. Okay, so if I go to demos, these are live modules. And you can see the text. This is SVG text, actually. It's using SVG to create this effect, but it's still editable, still clickable, sorry. And you know, search engines can see it. So you can do these effects just in Photoshop and whatever, but you know, your search engines won't see that. So I said that you can't see this path on the front end, and normally you can't, but I just modified the module for my own website so that it's visible. So normally on the front end, you would see that, or your users, when they visit your website, they would see this. But on the back end, while you're editing your in the visual builder, while you're editing.
Okay, so you can, that was my question, because it used to be you use Divi builder in the back end, and then they created the visual builder, so you have the visual builder on the front end and the back end. So I wanted to clarify, by front end you meant live, not visual builder. So you can still access that pathway view while you're designing on the visual builder of Divi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, and you can toggle
Does that
it on
make
and
sense
off.
what I was asking?
Yeah. So, and you can toggle it off in the visual builder, because if you don't want to see it, or you just want to quickly see what it's going to look like without it, you can turn it off.
Cool. Very cool. All right.
But you really need it. I found, I mean, I put it in there because you really need it. I discovered it can be quite disorientating trying to, make a piece of curved text when you can't actually see the path. And I considered making it an option to make it visible on the front end, but then I just couldn't see anyone ever really wanting to do that. And you can put a path on it anyway, which is visible on the front end. You can, if I scroll down here, you can put a path on that if you want to make it visible. So these are all paths which have been put on that path to make it visible on the front end. And because it's SVG, you're not just limited to dots and dashes. You can actually design your own dots and dashes with SVG by entering in numbers. So you can say, I want a 5-pixel dash with a 10-pixel gap, then a 20-pixel dash with a 30-pixel gap. And,
wow.
So that's what that is. That's
wow, very cool.
That's an SVG path with a series of numbers making the path thicker and thinner, and then it repeats. So it's good fun. It's good fun, this one.
It looks like fun. I'm excited.
And you can see what I mean by sort of suiting, like, it looks like an ice cream or a popcorn box or something like that. So that's how I see this module. All right, so I'm going to jump into...
David, excuse me. We had one more question before you jump in, which is, this is from Cassie, who comments that your wife is very talented. Could we know her name?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. My wife's name's Nadia, and her surname's Astari, if you're looking for a filmmaker. I said she was a videographer before. She's a filmmaker. She's not a videographer. But she kind of does everything. She's screenwriter and editor, videographer. Thank you. I'm sure she'll love hearing that. Nadia is her name. All right, so, okay, I'm just going to mention ImageBox very quickly, because otherwise I probably won't go back to it. And then I can just forget about everything and talk about TableMaker and demo it. So ImageBox, I don't have a video for it. The problem that this was built to solve is, as you will all know, with the Divi image module, when you put an image onto the page, it puts the whole image onto the page. You can't crop it. You can resize the image, but you can't crop it. You can't do anything to it other than resize it and maybe put a border on it and a drop shadow. So, but if you've worked in, like any desktop publishing or graphic design software, you'll know that, there's a lot more things you can do. Normally you can crop an image, you can resize it within the crop, you can rotate it, you can flip it. And to do all of that in Divi, really at the moment, you have to create separate, you have to do it in Photoshop and bring it in. Basically, if you want to rotate the image, go into Photoshop, rotate it, recrop it, bring it back in. If you wanted to have different image proportions from desktop to tablet to phone, for example, you might want to have a landscape, a horizontal banner at desktop size, but then once you get to phone size, that's going to look really small and not generous. You're probably going to want it to be square or even portrait at desktop for phone. And to do that, you can do it with Divi, but you'd have to load maybe 2 or 3 different images and then use the visibility settings to toggle them on and off. And it's a bit cumbersome when it can be actually all just be done with one module, and it can be done with one image, and it can be done with CSS. So that's what this module does. I'll skip some of this. So when you bring an image when you use ImageBox to bring an image in, it comes in a box, in a framing box, and you can adjust the proportions of that box by presets or by custom amount. So you can choose, say, you want it to be square, or you want it to be 3x2 or 4x5, or you can set just a custom amount. And the image in this case has been set to fill that. So whatever proportion you choose for the image box, the image is just going to automatically fill it. And you can also set it to fit, which means you'll see gaps because it's not always going to crop perfectly. So that's a bit yet less useful, but it might be useful to some people. And you can also manually size it. So here, I've set an image box frame, I suppose, I think it's 2x1. But then I can resize that image within it and crop it however I like. And it's all responsive, all of these settings are responsive. So I can have, a really skinny horizontal for desktop, and then I can have a square format for tablet, and I can have a portrait format for phone, and I can have different image scales as well for each of those different devices. Not only can you resize the image, but you can position it within the frame, and you can rotate it, and you can flip it. This is my daughter, by the way. This is my daughter, Bonnie. She's so cute. So beautiful. You can also set up image repeats and scale those. And you can put, filter effects over the images as well. And you can color every different part of this module. You can color. And as I said, the settings are all responsive. So you can see in this example, it's square here, but then it becomes more portrait, landscape at responsive sizes. The other thing this module now has is the ability to bring in text. So if you've got an image library you've got a lot of images in your WordPress media library, and you've already gone to the trouble of putting in your image titles and alt text and captions and descriptions on the image itself. If you use ImageBox, you can choose to bring those captions and those alt tags and titles and descriptions into the front end and show them, so you don't have to enter them again. Pardon me. It's a really cool feature, and it's something I'd actually seen a lot on support forums saying, I've already gone to the trouble of, annotating or, naming all of my images, and how can I bring them onto the front end and show those titles? Well, with this module, you can, and you can position that text above, below, left and right of the image. And you can adjust the ratio of the image to the text and the gaps between everything. And, you can create hover effects, And you can really style it however you want. These are just some examples that I actually don't like them very much. I think when I did this, I was running out of energy on this, I think, when I put these together, but you know, you can choose better colors than I chose. Yeah, so that's ImageBox. I'd really love to show you a bit more about it, but I think I'm going to run out of time, so I'll leave it at that. But this is, you know, I'm a bit surprised this one hasn't sold as well as it has, because I think it really does, you know, it does solve a lot of problems. And somebody left a review on the marketplace for it, which just said, I love this module, just buy it already. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Not for any other reason, that it's just really, really useful, and it saves you a lot of time, and it reduces the page load, because if you're loading 2 or 3 images to create, you know, multiple views at different device sizes, that takes time and bandwidth, and you know, you can do it all in the visual builder visually, and not have to go back and forth from Photoshop and everything all the time. So that's that. All right, I'll show you Table Maker. Okay, this is our best-selling product. Many of you might already have it. I don't know, I'll be familiar with it. And I'll do it from scratch. So is everyone seeing Divi now? Yeah, okay. So I'll add a new table. Oh, actually, no, I'll just get going. You'll see what it does. Okay, so it tells you what to do. It says click on add new column to make your table. So we can go here, we could go add new column, and it tells you again what to do. It says here you can enter content for this column's rows. Rows are numbered for your convenience, and 1 row in this editor equals 1 row in the table. So if I type in header, hit return, and type in row, 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 your boat. Oh man. Your boat, okay. Row, row, row your boat. I don't know what this thing popping up here, this this scroll wheel, this is new in Divi. This is since a recent update to Divi, and I think it might be a bit of a bug, because I've seen quite a bit about it on forums recently, showing up in the text editor as well. Anyway, so that's as easy as it is really to create some rows in Table Maker. This is a single column now with a header, and that's 1 row. I can go back out here now and I can just duplicate that to create multiple rows. So that's a pretty boring table, but it's a table. And I can delete rows and reorder them as well. I'll just bring in a little bit more interesting content for this demo. Just bear with me while I do this. Can we get an indication of how many people might already be using this module? I'd just be interested to know if this is new to most people, or whether, you know, you're already somewhat familiar with it. It might sort of change what I show.
Hey guys, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to share and you know, participate if you're using. It's called Table Maker.
Table Maker, yeah. I just realized what I didn't do was I didn't show you the like I did with the other modules. I didn't show you sort of give you the quick introduction to it. So this is Table Maker. And Table Maker brings beautiful responsive tables to the Divi builder. Style every part of the table from content to columns, headers to footers, right down to individual cells without the need for shortcodes. Features include multiple headers and footers, column and row spanning, icons, buttons, and image cells, accordion view for mobile, and scrolling with sticky headers. So now you actually know what I'm showing you. Right, so I've put in a bit more interesting content, and well, not much more interesting, but so you can see now that you know, we can just reorder the columns like this. Now, before TableMaker was released, there just wasn't any table solution really for Divi. So this was, you know, this is really one module that I built very specifically, knowing that you know, it was filling a gap that wasn't there. Most of my other modules are just things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do this as well, but you know, most of my other modules are just things that I did for fun. But this is one that I really thought could be useful, and it has turned out to be quite popular and quite useful. And it's currently the fourth best seller on the Divi marketplace in the extensions category.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you put a image into a cell?
Yes. So I'll demo all of that very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my question is, will it size it automatically, or do you have to size it in advance? So I'll let you do your demo.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll just quickly answer you in case I forget. The images by default fill the width of the column, right? And so you can set the proportion, but the proportion is the height based on the width. So, you know, if the column's really wide, the image is going to be big. And there's not a lot of control for that. And that's a common question, I suppose, that I get. Well, there's a reasonably common for people who are using images in tables. There's some basic image controls for positioning it. And I'll try and make a point of showing those to you. I'm just quickly going to style this a different color so we can see a bit more clearly what's going on. Okay, so I've got 5 columns and 5 rows, and I've got a header and I've got a column header, the purple one, and a row header, which is the one on the left. The main controls for the table are in these first 2 toggles, table columns and table rows. And this is where you can adjust the amount of headers that you have on a table. So I've got 3 headers now, or I can say none. And I can add footers as well. And now these colors can all be changed. So once you say, okay, I want the first 1 or 2 columns of this table to be a header, I can color that and change the type styles independently of the rest of the table. And the same is true with footers. So I can put a column footer on there, and I can go to rows and I can add multiple row headers or none, and row footers as well. I can also adjust the height of the rows here. And under the column settings, I can adjust the width of all of the columns. Now, I don't want to get too detailed, but this is using fraction units, which some people might not be used to. In fact, Divi Builder doesn't support them very well, but they're the best unit to use for tables because they're proportional. So if I adjust this, nothing's going to happen because every column is getting a fraction of 3, so they're all the same. Sorry, but if I change that to pixels, for example, and say maybe 100 pixels, you can see that it's doing its job. Now, there's a bit of a bug in the Divi Builder, and I've written to Elegant Themes about this, and they haven't yet fixed it. But with the fraction units, unfortunately, if I try and type in a fraction, like 5 FR, it defaults to pixels. And the same thing happens if I try and use these little buttons here. It just turns to pixels. So you have to use the slider. It's really annoying. Hopefully they'll do something about it at some point. But I chose to leave it like that, even though it's a bit of an issue, because fractions are absolutely the best unit for dealing with column widths. So if I go into just a single column, say the second column here, and go to its column width settings, it's using the default, which is that 1 FR that we had before. But if I change this to, 2FR, it's now, or it's 1.9, whatever. It's now twice the size of all the other columns, but it's, I can save that and go to Firefox. Are you seeing something different now? Are you seeing Firefox? No, okay, I'll have to share that. Are you seeing Firefox now?
I see the Divi-Modules site, yes.
Yeah, okay, and that's the table on the front end now. And so if I resize the browser, you can see that's scaling proportionally because I'm using FR units. If I was using pixels, it'd be a fixed size. And you can use a combination of pixels and FR units. So I could go, I'll just refresh that. I could go to the first column and make that 100 pixels. Save that. And then go back to Firefox and refresh it. If I resize that now, you can see that first column staying 100 pixels, but the others are moving proportionally. So you've got a lot of control over column widths. I can add, what else? What should I talk about next? Not that, I think. Responsive settings. So we can turn responsive settings off, and I'll just flick to the front end again. You can see what will happen at some point is the columns they'll hit their minimum width, because you can set a maximum width and a minimum width for the columns. They'll hit their minimum width, and then the table will start pushing off the page. And this is the biggest issue with tables, HTML tables, is how do you get that content to fit on mobile devices? So the way that TableMaker solves this, and I'm just going to turn that off as well. The way TableMaker solves this is, first of all, with scrolling. So if I turn on scrolling, save that and go back to Firefox and refresh, you'll see now when I hit that minimum width, scroll bars will appear. The table still disappears, but if I can get to my trackpad, that now scrolls. So you can have, as many columns as you like and still have them visible. You can turn on sticky row headers, and I'll show you what happens then. You might already guess. But now when I scroll out, the row headers stay there so that you can see what you're looking at. You can do the same for column headers, and I'll turn that on. And you can see nothing happens. Now, this is a very common question I get, and I fell into the same trap even when I was building the module. The scroll bars don't appear unless you need them. So if you think about it, the horizontal scroll bars appear at this point because we need it. The table's pushing out beyond the available space. But because a web page is potentially infinitely long, I can add thousands of rows, hundreds or thousands of rows, and I'll never need the scroll bars because this page can just scroll forever and ever and ever, and it'll just keep adding rows. So if you do want to use sticky column headers, what you need to do is you need to give the table a height, or a maximum height, or a height. So if I give this table a maximum height of, I don't know, 300 pixels, that's not enough. 200. Aha. Okay. Now the table has a limit. So if I go back onto the front end, there it is. So now I've limited the height of the table to 200 pixels, and it has to show the scroll bar. And because I've turned on sticky column headers, those headers are staying there rather than scrolling off the page. So I get support questions about this all the time, and it's like, yeah. Clearly, I need to it's my issue. I need to find a way to make that more obvious. I probably need to put a warning or something in the module itself, or more clearly explain it in the documentation. So that's one responsive option, scrolling. And that's an easy fix. It's really reliable and people understand it. The other option is responsiveness. So I'll put it on at table size. So what I can do, you can see they've got break by columns or break by rows, and I've got display as blocks or accordion. So what this table is going to do at tablet size is each of these columns is going to become a separate table at tablet size, so that we don't have those issues with content disappearing. So if I now move, I'm on the front end again, I move this down, hit tablet size, each of those columns, so we had, what did we have? Foxtrot, Kilo, Papa, Uniform. So now I've got Foxtrot, it's one little table, Kilo, Papa, Uniform, and the row headers have been duplicated so that you can see what these rows relate to. But I can also split by rows. So if I split by rows and refresh this on the front end, so now it's the rows that have split into separate tables, and the column headers have been repeated so that you can see what the content relates to. So this is a really nice way to resolve the problem and still have all of the content visible without the user having to scroll horizontally. I can also choose to display that as an accordion, which is identical in the way that the information, I'll go back to columns. It's identical in the way that the information is displayed, except it's displayed in an accordion. So I can, and that it's a little bit easier, I think, for people to get their head around, than having it all just laid out there. But you've got the option, and you can. What I'll do, I'll change this to, okay, so we're still on the back end now. It's previewing in the back end. I can change the gap between those accordions with this, or if I display it as blocks, I can also change that gap there. So that's a really cool feature, and it's works really well. If I go and add more headers, for example, you can see they're all repeated across these mini tables, these blocks, and that's probably enough about the responsive settings. Is there any questions about that? Because it can be a bit disorientating when your table suddenly breaks into multiple parts. But if anyone's getting any questions, let me know. I don't think I need to say anything. Oh, also when you're when you're displaying as an accordion, under the design tab, there is some accordion settings, and you can choose the icon that you want to use for the accordion toggle, and adjust its size and its color up here. So it's quite a lot of customizability, if that's a word. Because you've asked about, I think it was Mark that asked about content, like images that you were asking about, wasn't it? No, I'll demo that now. So yes, you can display text, icons, images, and buttons. And you can also include shortcodes. So if there's, now the shortcodes, a shortcode can be anything. So sometimes it may not work with shortcodes depending on what sort of modules you're trying to bring into the table. I think you have to be realistic, with what you try and jam into a table row or a table cell. But I've successfully put sliders into into a table row and other things. And if you watch the videos, the table maker videos, you can see some examples of that. But first of all, I'll show you how to add icons. So I'll go down. So I'll add a row of icons here. So we want the second column. Oh, now, Table Maker does require of you to use a bit of code or HTML to do some of these advanced functions. A lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but there's really no other way to do it, at least not at the moment. So this is all covered in the documentation, but if I type in an icon tag, which is just like an HTML tag, you can see that an icon has appeared in the table there. And I'll put that in. I'll just copy and paste that quickly into the rest of the rows. Oops. And once you've got your icon in there, you can go down to the icon settings and change the default icon. So at the moment, the default is a tick. But you can change that icon to whatever you want, and you can change its color, and you can change its size like that. So if you're doing a like a comparison table or a features table, this is really handy. Now, most of Table Maker's settings are available per column, not just for the whole table. So under the design settings, we've got all of these styling options for text, for headers and for rows, and for, we've got table cells, table text, header cells, header text, row header cells, row header text, column footer cells, column footer text, row footer cells, row footer text. It goes on and on. You can style every separate part of the table individually for the whole table, but you can also go into an individual column and style that as well. So I can, just change the color of this header for this one column to pink if I want, or I could go to the column cells and make them black, and change the alignment. And there's so much in this. I really should have just dedicated the whole presentation to this. But why I'm showing you this is with icons. What are we in the third column? It also has its own icon settings. So if I'm doing a features table or something, and I probably want some crosses in there as well. So I could go down to the column's own icon settings, and I could change the color just of this one icon. And I have no idea where the cross, there it is. I can change that to a cross.
Oh.
So yeah, you can almost think of the columns as being separate tables. Most settings are duplicated from in the columns. The other thing that you can do, because you don't always you might not always want your icons to be spread. Oh, what did I do there? You might not always want your icons to be across the table. You might want them to be, vertical. So here I've got two icons now. So how do I change that icon? Because I can't change it for the column because both of them will change. What I can do is I can just type in between the tags, I can just type in the name of the icon that I want. So I've typed in heart. And you can find all of these names on the Divi-Modules website. If you go to the Divi-Modules website and then you go to Table Maker, are you seeing this now, the website? Yeah.
Yes.
You scroll down. There's also a link to this in the documentation. So this is probably not the easiest way to find it. I can't even find it now. Oh, here we go. So under table content on the website, there's a link here. And that takes you to Table Maker icons. So these are all of the elegant icons, and these are the names of them. The Elegant Themes gave the icons when they made this font set. And so if there's any icons that you want to use in Table Maker, but that you can't use by selecting them in the visual builder, you can just come down, you can come to the Divi-Modules website, find the one you want. I don't know, I want this one. I can copy that and then go back here and paste it in. And there it is. So it does, yeah, it does require you to hotels and a hotel. It does require you to enter these little tags, but you know, it's not that hard. Some people really have a problem with this. I'm going to tell you. Oh my God, I have to enter HTML. Oh my God, I'm building a website, and I shouldn't be cynical like that, but it's not that hard. I know you only have to type it in once because it finishes. You type in icon and it finishes it for you. So it's pretty easy. Okay, so that's that.
I have a question.
Yeah, Patty.
First of all, that's great that you showed how you can just type in icon and it finishes for you, because HTML, until you get comfortable with it, can feel scary, right? So
I know. I shouldn't laugh, but
no, I think it's great because you're showing that, you know what, it's okay to try, and that's what we're doing. A lot of people who are learning WordPress and learning Divi, it's a trial and error. I mean,
that's right.
That's how I learned it. I learned it by making mistakes and then trying again. Undo was really helpful.
And what can you? I mean, the worst that can happen is you screw up your table and you have to start again or something. You know, like it's not the end of the world. And if this forces you to start thinking about HTML or CSS, great. I mean, your world's going to open up. You know,
yeah, it's great.
And you might not have to start. You might not have to fork out for modules. You know, start doing it yourself. There's a lot. You know, there's a lot of modules that people are buying, and mine included. You know, they're there because people want to interact with an interface, and I understand that, but the reality is it's often very simple stuff, and it can be done if you're prepared to learn. And you know, you can start off with a module, and then maybe one day you might not need it anymore, and you save yourself and your clients some money.
I think this is a really fantastic module, and I do have a question, because as you were showing it gave me ideas in ways to use it. So clearly one of a popular one that would be, not clearly, but one of the popular ones for my clientele would be a pricing table. So I'm wondering, you know, how very often a pricing table will have one column that's almost raised or lifted. I could see that you could make it a separate color, but do you have is that possible with this? It's
not, unfortunately. No, it's not.
Okay, so it could be a different color, and I see that you have buttons. You can put a button. Can you put
buttons? I'll show those in a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, you can put buttons. You can change the color, of course. And there's a lot of other stuff that you can do that I can show you in ways to highlight a specific column. But one thing I wanted to say about this, which I really should have said at the start, is, you know, there's really two types of tables. The way I think about it, there's what I like to sort of refer to as data-driven tables, and then there's display tables. And data-driven tables generally will have lots of rows, lots of information. They might be more like a directory of names or figures or something. Very often the way they're presented is very simple and not really important in terms of the meaning. What's important is the data. And often with tables like that, the user will maybe want to interact with the data. They might want to filter it or search it or reorder it. So that's one type of table. The other type of table is a display style table. And that's things like feature comparison charts, product feature charts and tables and things like that. And Table Maker very definitely falls into that second category. It doesn't have any data capabilities in terms you can't import data, you can't use dynamic content, you can't filter or search the data or any of that. So, you know, it was built with a very specific intention. And I occasionally get people sort of are not happy about that. They think it should have those other features, but it's a very different thing. And it's not what Table Maker's built for. It's built to play on the strengths of the Divi builder, which is its styling options. So if you're looking for something more like a data table, you might have to look elsewhere, or you might like to join our newsletter, because we might have something to say about that fairly soon.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
very
so-
helpful, though. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. So because Mark asked about images, so you might guess that the way that you add an image is the same as icons. You type in image like that. Now, nothing's going to happen because we haven't loaded any images. But if I go back here to my table settings and load some images, it uses the gallery field, and I can load some images. Can't see the button that's hidden. There we go. There we go. So I've got some images in here now, and by default, it'll show the first image. So if I was to reorder these images here, the image will change. Now this has to load using Ajax, which you don't need to know what that is, but it just means it has to query the database, and it has to load that image in. That's why you see the scroll wheel. Sorry, that's why you see the little timer pop up there. So once I've loaded some images, you can see I loaded, I think 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they have a specific order. They go from white to blue to purple. So by default, it's going to load that first image, but I can load the second image just by putting the number 2 in between these tags. Number 3, number 4. So I'll put number 1 there. And just bear with me while I do the rest. Where am I? Here. 4 and 5. Okay. And so if I was to reorder the images down here again, the order would change in the table. The other settings I've got, I can adjust the image quality. So I can, if I know the image is only ever going to be small, I can choose low quality, small. I can choose full size or large as well. I can adjust the proportion. So that's portrait. That's, looks terrible, but you can do it. Square, and a bunch of others. Like maybe I'll choose 3 by, oh, maybe I'll choose this for now. I can choose to fit or fill this space. So if I chose fit, the images will all squish down to fit the available space. Fill's probably more useful, and that's why it's the default. But some of the images cropped off now, and I can choose to, is that going to work? Oh, I can choose to align it to the top, center, or bottom. There's not a lot of control here. Maybe in the next update, I might make this a slider so that you can move it up and down to to an exact point. But so that's images. Is there anything else that you want to know about that, Mark? Is Mark still with us?
Oh, Mark had to go for another meeting, but I let him know that I will send out the recording.
Okay, great. How are we going for time? I can sort of maybe show you buttons, and then I can wrap it up. Is that?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
Or I mean, I'm not very good at doing maths on the fly, so I'm looking at the clock, but I'm not. I don't know how much longer we've got.
Yeah, if you could go over buttons, I was actually interested in that too. And
Yep.
And like I said, we're going to have the recording for anybody who had to hop off, and so yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, and do you think that's enough, Patty, or would you like me to?
Yeah, why don't we why
take
don't
some
we
questions maybe.
do the buttons and then see if we have questions? We could take it
Yep.
from there and then we could wrap it up. And like, I believe I may have said this before we got on with everyone that, you know, and we'd love to have you back for another presentation.
Okay.
We can't fit it all
Yeah.
in, you know?
Yeah, there's another product I'd really like to show people actually called Hide and Show Pro, but it's very different to these other ones. And yeah, I'd love to come back on at some point if that's,
Okay.
you know, if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. All right, so buttons. Once again, you know, it's pretty simple. We go down here, we type in button. Now, what happens, unfortunately, I can't control this, is this editor, this content editor, when you add in a button, it splits it over three rows. So you just have to bring that back up. You know, this module is kind of pushing what the Divi builder can do in some ways. There's no ideal interface item for dealing with tables, which is why, you know, they have to be split into columns. You can't interact directly with rows, unfortunately. And if you think about it, that's the same way the pricing table, the pricing module, Divi's own pricing module works. It's a bit of a limitation. So, you know, things like this button dropping down to 3 lines, it's just, you know, everything's a work in progress, and that includes my products and Divi's. But the great thing about the Divi community, I think, and Elegant Themes is, you know, they're honest about that. And I think most people understand that, you know, it's an evolving space, and a good one, an exciting one to be involved in. So with the button, I've added a button to each column, and I can go down here to buttons, and I've got some settings. I can change the default text here. I can put in a default URL. I won't do that because I'm going to show you know how to do that. So then all those buttons will go to the one place, and I can set a target so it opens up in the same window or in a new window. And I can custom style it as well, which I'm not going to do because, you know, speaking of things that don't work very well, you know, Elegant Themes really need to look at buttons. It's a mess, I think. But it works. Yeah, it works. So that's all well and good, but of course you don't always want all of your buttons to be the same, and you don't always want them to go to the same place. So if we opened up let's open up this column again, because since we changed the icon for this one, and go down to its button, I can change the text that here, I can change that to sold out, just for that one column. And if I go down to the button settings for this column, I can also do that there. So just like I showed you, you could manually change an icon by typing between it like this. Oh, it's not working. Okay. Something I have to look at. So you can change the text of the button by either typing in between the buttons, or you can change it for the whole column by going down to the button settings. And here I can also change the URL or the destination where this button goes to, and the target. And I can change the width of the button as well to be the full width of the column, or just the width of the width of the cell, or just the width of the text. And I can custom style this button too. I can also, let me see. I can also enter, if you're familiar again with HTML, I can also enter a URL, an href link directly into the button by adding an href attribute, and I can also enter target attributes. Oh, I've done that wrong. Target equals, was it blank, for example. So there's a little bit, maybe getting a little bit specific, but you can, if you want all of your buttons to go to different places and you want to style them differently, you can do that as well. I don't know what's happened here. I've just typed it incorrectly, I think. Now, I'll just show you one more thing, Patty, and then I'll wrap up, kind of to address the question that you had actually, for how to highlight tables. What I'm going to do is just very quickly undo everything I've done and open it up. And just go back to a very simple table. So it's a bit clearer. Make some columns. So as I said, you know, you can style every separate part of this. You can also adjust the gaps between the cells. So you can make it look like that, or you can make it look like that. And these adjustments still work when it's viewed as an accordion. It all works. You can use lines instead of gaps, solid lines, which you can change the color of. But the gaps are great because they let the background color through. So, you know, if you put an image behind this with these gaps, it looks really cool. And then you can do stuff like if we go to the table cells, obviously we can change their color, and you know, we can change the text alignment vertically and horizontally, but we can also, you know, adjust the padding, so that the amount of space around the text like that. But this is really cool. We can also, you know, put on rounded corners, and I'll just show you in the front end. You know, that still works in the responsive mode and with accordion as well. So if I go back to here and go accordion, refresh that and view this, you know, it's got these lovely rounded, and you can start styling it in a way that it really just doesn't even look like a table at all. We can also add alternating stripes. That's a little bit hard to see, but you know, the very common effect with tables to make them more legible is to have alternating row colors, and you can set that to be odd or even row, and you can set which parts of the table get affected by that. I need to do a little bit more work on this. It's currently only really good for subtle color differences, but if I start doing things that are a bit more obvious, it doesn't work so good. So I'm going to revisit this in another update. But
And what if those
it's
rows were, sorry, just a question. What if those rows were, let's just say, you know, fuchsia? You could change the cell colors and then
like that. Yeah.
Well, no, if every other row, could you do every?
No, that's the limitation, and that's.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know, it's not great, honestly. I can't remember why I didn't do it when I first built the module. You know, it might have been that I just wasn't thinking that way, but I've since, you know, I've been thinking about it again, and that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to make it so that you can actually choose a color, because all it's doing at the moment is adjusting. It's like a filter. It adjusts whatever color is there. So you can kind of get there if you want to, but you can't select a specific color. You know, you can change the saturation and you can change the brightness.
Well, I'm sure you know how this goes as your creative mind, and you start coming up with all the different ideas. So
yeah, and this
already does so much. It's really, really great.
I mean, you've really hit the nail on the head there. I mean, WordPress itself actually has kind of a motto for plugin developers, and it's something like make decisions, not options, which is a bit cryptic, but I think what it means and the way people interpret it is that when you're developing a product, make decisions about what you want your product to do. Don't just provide infinite amounts of options.
Yeah.
Because it's overwhelming, you know, and it makes it very difficult to maintain as well. So
Yeah, and you can lose
You know,
sight of the purpose of it by creating a lot of like bells and whistles. It becomes
Exactly.
very, you
Yeah.
know, and then it loses its actual functionality, the reason for it.
Exactly. And some of the decisions that I've made along the way of developing this module, you know, they've been made exactly for those reasons. And but now, you know, with a bit of time, you know, I want to revisit some of it because I think it can be better. And that's one of them. There's another one at the moment too, which is a common thing, is that when the accordion module, when the table first becomes an accordion, if you're using those responsive options, the first column is open by default. And I'm starting to get, you know, requests, you know, almost weekly now for people saying, how can I have it so that that first column is closed? So all those toggles are closed. And I've actually got a modified module which I send to people directly if they contact me over email, which solves that problem, but it's not built into the module yet. So yeah, there's a few things that need addressing, but it does a lot, and it doesn't overpromise. You know, like, so if you look at the documentation and you look at the website, there's live examples on the website. It does what it says it does. There's a couple of little bugs. There's a couple of things that are not working as well as they could. But my next priority after, well, I gave you a hint of that there might be a new product coming out. My next priority after that is to release an update to TableMaker. So to fix things like that. I think that's enough, isn't it? That's more than enough.
I think this has been great. I just want to see if anyone has questions. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and we can just chat for a couple of minutes. If you have questions, we'll just open it up. And in the meantime, until or unless anyone, while you guys are doing that, if you want to join in, I just wanted to let you know that there were a couple of comments in the chat that you probably didn't see because you were presenting.
Yeah, I didn't even look at it. Sorry.
Let me get all of us back on the screen here. So I just wanted to let you know that there were a couple of comments that weren't questions, but Mark had said your Illustrator history has not gone to waste.
That's nice.
And I agree.
I'm glad some people, I thought there'd be a few people that would get that.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just see, there was one other one. Did we? Oh, there was a question here from Cassie. I don't know if we got this one. Oh, sorry, Cassie. Could ImageBox also use images from Affinity?
Yes, you can use any images. I mean, when you prepare your images in an image application like Photoshop or Affinity, you generally export them or save them out as JPEGs or PNGs or GIFs, and then you bring them into WordPress through the media window or the media area. But where that file comes from, if I've understood the question correctly, where that file comes from doesn't matter. It can be anything. Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple more here. Somebody just joined in. So there were several questions about the recording, which I had answered in chat, but I will just say the meetings are recorded. I send the, once I have it downloaded, I upload it to a playlist in my YouTube channel, and I send the link via the Meetup Messenger to anyone who attended or RSVP. So watch the emails that come from meetup.com, because that'll be from me with the recording link. And then, like I said, if anyone wants to just unmute and chat, we can go into just basic chat, open for question and answer, or just chatting about it. I got a lot of these people are excited about the presentation and about learning. I had where to go. Hold on. Cassie said, this is new to me. I'm excited. Sarah said, me too. There was a question here from Sandra. Are these tables accessible out of the box?
I'm not sure what she means by that.
I wonder, Sarah, are you still on? Let me see if Sarah's still on.
Is she asking maybe for templates or?
Yeah, I wonder if she means like, like a pre-created like box. Yeah.
No, there's no. So what I sometimes do for people is I send them the examples from the website. So, if you go to the Divi-Modules website and have a look under the demos tab, you'll see there's a bunch of tables, and I sometimes pack them up and send them to people who need a bit of help getting started.
Okay. Well,
unfortunately, I'm a small business, and I've got a list of to-dos and things that I want to do, which is like just growing every day. And one of them is, creating template libraries and providing a bit more help like that. But I just haven't had the time. And because we've only been really in business, the business has really only been kicking off since the launch of the Divi Marketplace. Before that, we were in business for a year, but it was pretty quiet. There's just so many other things that I have to get in place still. But that's on my list to do. And the way I'm getting around that, I suppose, and this has to do with having proper support systems and all of that sort of stuff. The way I'm getting around is I'm just putting a lot of energy into support. And so if somebody really can't work something out themselves, or they've got a very specific need, and they want a bit of help, if I've got the time, I'll do it. I'll build. I mean, that's how I met Stella McGovern, who I mentioned at the start of the presentation. She wanted to build something. She didn't know how to do it, so I built it for her. And I mean, I don't want everyone to email me and start asking me to build their websites for them. It's not about that. It's if you really need a bit of help and I've got the time, I very often will just build something for somebody or get them to send me what they've done so far, and I'll clean it up a bit and send it back to them. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And I love the ingenuity of the, creating something out of your love and your passion, and then building a business. And someone has, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the image
Bendel's
box.
photography.
Yes, the image box. Does that be used as a gallery?
No, it can't, unfortunately. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've got ideas around that. I suspect that there's quite a few module builders at the moment who are looking at those things. And I wouldn't be surprised even if Elegant Themes have got their own. This is not, I don't know anything. I'm just guessing. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if there's some big updates coming out. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the really, the real things that are really lacking at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those are addressed fairly soon. I'm sure they're more than aware of what needs to happen. But yeah, I've got ideas about that. It's Mendel's, isn't it? I'm speaking to, I think.
Yeah.
No. I wish I could say yes. No, you can't.
There's another comment from Linda who said, thanks, I'm new to WordPress and I've never worked with Divi, so this was interesting for me.
Wow, okay, good.
Yeah, it's great.
There's probably a lot of stuff that's a bit mysterious. I guess I've assumed that most people here have some experience with WordPress and especially with Divi, but yeah, that's really nice to hear that somebody who's new to all of this is still getting something out of it. That's great.
We have such a great and supportive group, and we had everyone from brand new to Divi to people who are really developers and very well experienced with it, and coders and everything, and it makes the conversation so rich, because it's great support, and it's also there's just so many, like we talked about, there's just so many options and there's so many solutions, and kind of having these talks once a month about what those might be helps solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
People. Oh,
No,
Linda
it's
says
wonderful.
she
It's
knows
a-
HTML and CSS and JavaScript, just not a page builder. Well, you know a
Okay,
lot
right.
more than me, Linda, because I know
Yeah.
Divi and I don't know any of those things.
Well, that's right. I mean, yeah, I mean, page builders have their use, you know, they really do. I mean, as I said, I use Divi for a nonprofit organization for that reason, because there's no guarantee that the people that use the websites that you build will be able to use them. But at least with a package like Divi, if they want to dive in deeper, they can. There's resources out there, and they can start taking ownership of their own website. Whereas, and they can change it. Whereas if you build a bespoke website, code it all yourself, I mean, that gives you an enormous amount of control, and it makes it possible for you to build a website which is sort of foolproof, but it doesn't give much power. It doesn't really empower your customers. And I think that's one of the positive things about Divi, is that it can sort of do both. You can lock it down, and you can tell your clients, don't touch this, don't touch that, just do this, this, and this. But if they want to, and if they've got someone in their team that's interested, they can jump in and start doing it themselves.
That's great.
Are there any other questions? I might just mention one more thing if there's no more questions.
There's just one more comment, and then
Yeah.
So Paka said, mind blown. Did not realize all the features built into the plugin. 3 explanation points. Thanks for
Great.
all your hard work.
Thank you.
So
That's
great.
that's what I love about this this business, actually, is the feedback. It's really, really good. It's really interesting. Doing support is it's fascinating, the people that you meet, and often people who have the biggest problems, maybe getting stuff to work or whatever, and they often the most grateful. And I really, it's really nice to hear that. So thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Can I just tell people, I have to do this, I suppose. You can buy our modules on our own website, as you've already seen. And we're also available, everything's available on the Elegant Themes marketplace. And not everyone here might be aware of the differences. So this is what it is. So if you purchase modules from our website, they come as single or unlimited license. So you can use it either on a single website, or you can use it on unlimited, depending on which license you buy. And with that, you get lifetime support and updates. So you don't need to renew it. You pay once and you've got it. You can if you buy the single site license, you can upgrade to unlimited sites at any time and just pay the difference in price. If you purchase our modules from the Elegant Themes Divi Marketplace, they are all available for unlimited website usage. And this is not just, my relationship with Elegant Themes. This is the way it works for everyone. You have unlimited website usage, but you only have 1 year support and updates. And what that means is the product will continue to work. It doesn't suddenly stop working and break all your websites after a year. It just means that if you want to update the product, or you want to access support, you have to purchase another license to do that. And the products are priced accordingly. So the products are available much cheaper on the Divi Marketplace, but it's 1 year support and updates. They're more expensive on the Divi-Modules website, but they're lifetime support and updates.
Makes sense.
We also have a brand new affiliate program, which everyone has. It's really only been open for a month or two. 20% commission. If you're into affiliate marketing and you like our products and want to just earn a bit of money off them, or if you're using our products on recommending them to your customers to use on their websites, you can give them an affiliate link and then you get a little bit back. They can purchase it themselves with the affiliate link, but you'll get a little bit back. And when you become an affiliate, you get access to graphics, which you can see there, which you can put on your, it's just a simple matter of copying a little bit of HTML and jamming it into a code module on your website, and and it's done.
Great.
Yeah, so that's it. That's me done.
David, this is such a great presentation. I really, I got a lot out of it. I have a lot of new ideas and things
Yep.
I can see the uses for the modules. This really,
Okay, great.
you know what it makes when you see things on a site that you love the idea of it and you just, how do they do that? Right?
Yeah,
That's the thing that I hear myself say, oh, I wonder how they made that happen. And
Mhm.
because I don't know coding, I learned Divi. This is the kind of thing that myself and people like me find
Yeah.
super, super useful. And the presentation
Okay.
was great. So thanks so much.
Great. Great. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I know it's been very sort of product focused, perhaps because it's the first time I've done a presentation like this. But, you know, if I do come back on at any point, perhaps I might try and make it a little bit more practical, a few more examples of, you know, use cases or something like that. But
yeah,
but,
well,
but I-
this was great. It was
Oh,
great.
good. Okay.
And we're getting,
Thanks.
people are saying thanks a lot and fantastic plugins and demo. Thank you. So, and,
Great.
everybody enjoyed it as well.
Terrific. Well, that's very nice to hear. Thank you very much, Patty. And thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm going to see if I can, I think I have to go from here. I think I just,
I probably should have
We have
stopped
me
sharing
too.
it.
there we go. Gallery view.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no more questions for David, we'll wrap it up. And David would love to have you on another meeting in the not too far future. Let's get in touch about that. And if anyone has requests of what they'd like to have David present on, just send me a message in Meetup.
Yeah, and hopefully we should have something new to show at that point too. So yeah, I'm more.
That's great.
Just let me know whenever you want me to come back. Happy to do it. Happy to do it again.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again.
Okay.
Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody stay safe.
You too. You too. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Bye.